AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Harold Lee. Harold is the Director of Data Science at VTS. Harold, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So, Harold, if you would, could you start with giving us a brief background and overview of yourself, where you first got started in technology, and sort of walk us through some of the roles you've held along the way, taking us up to your current position at VTS?
Sure thing. And once again, thank you for having me. I started off my career actually in the finance industry. My first job out of college was as an investment banking strategist at Goldman Sachs. And the main role at the time was for me to help tailor risk management solutions for corporate clients. I did have a really good experience there, really was able to leverage my quantitative chops, but I realized that the tech industry and the startup industry was what really excited me more. So just to take a crack at sort of that scene, I moved to Blue Apron at the time, sort of the pre-IPO stage where I was also a data scientist, working with cross-functional partners to improve the existing product as well as forecast our future demand. For instance, how many boxes of the shrimp recipe at Blue Apron do we expect to deliver to our customers every week? So that was a very interesting problem to be a part of. After a couple of years having seen Blue Apron go public, I decided to venture to another pre-IPO company at the time, which was Lyft. As a data scientist there and subsequently as a data science leader, I worked on trying to improve the ride experience of all our passengers. Some of the projects we worked on, including improving sort of the waiting experience from the UI front and working with designers, engineers, and product managers to make it better, as well as finding ways to make the pickup more efficient, such as in New York, it might make sense for someone to get picked up at an intersection to save a little bit of time. After a couple of years at Lyft, I decided to venture again to a smaller environment, this time more to the B2B space, where I'm currently at right now. So since September of this year, I've been the Director of Data Science here at VTS, and our goal is to try to expand our data science capabilities here.
Harold, looking back at your time at both Lyft and at BlueApe, both of whom were incredibly successful, what were some of the things that you took away from that experience that has now helped you as a successful leader of a data science group in a new startup?
Yeah, that's a great question, JP. I would say that the main takeaway I got from working in both BlueApe and Lyft, which are very data-driven companies, very much focused on using data as one of the components to decision making. I would say the one thing that really stood out to me was to have a bias towards action. It is not sufficient for a data scientist to come up with insights or general trends or general patterns of what's going on in the industry, or just to have a fundamental understanding of what's going on with our customers or whatever you call it. It is more important to ask the question, okay, we have all these insights. What should we do in order to move towards our goal, to increase engagement with our customers, whatever the business objective is? So I've noticed that the great data scientists and how they differentiate from the good data scientists is to have the ability to cross that chasm from just having knowledge to recommendations. And in fact, recommendations that are feasible and practical and other cross-functional stakeholders can actually execute on. So coming into VTS, I think one of the things that I've been really focused on is not just to build, cool analyses or machine learning models that will excite people, but also offer them a practical solution on how that actually increases the value of our products or to create new revenue streams for the company. So I think that bias towards action is really the key to being an effective data scientist wherever you are.
Let's focus on your role now. So can you explain to us at a high level who VTS are, what you guys are doing, impact on the industry in which you're working, and then give us some insight into your role as the leader of the data science group?
Sure thing. So at a high level, VTS stands for View the Space. It's a commercial real estate startup that focuses on providing the best leasing management solutions for our landlords and brokers. We currently have a suite of products that really try to up-level the whole lease management process using technology. And last year, we actually launched 2 new products, one of which is VTS Market, which helps our landlords and brokers market their spaces, and for tenant representatives to view potential listings that would interest them, as well as VTS Data, which is a product where we aggregate the existing data that we have within our platform to give a good overview of the commercial real estate space. One of the most exciting developments we had was essentially the publication of the VOTI index, which stands for the VTS Office Demand Index. Given that the data we've collected over the years on how landlords sort of consider their deals, we have a very good sense of what the demand levels of the real estate space is. And by essentially aggregating that data, we have a pretty good pulse of what's happening across our major markets in the US. Where data science resides is that we are really trying to up-level the usage of data, both internally and externally. On the internal side, one of the things that we're really working on is to use product analytics using our data and our platform to figure out what are the things we need to prioritize to make our product better. Really trying to insert the tech-driven mindset into our commercial real estate products. And then the second part is really to drive really useful insights to our external clients who are using VTS data to really help them make the best decisions for them. So one of the things that we're currently working on right now is a lot of our insights we provide are more on the descriptive and diagnostic side. But to really unlock the true value of our data, we want to move towards insights and models that are more predictive and prescriptive. So those are our focuses for the upcoming years.
Thank you, Harold, and a great overview of VTS. Before going into the specifics of your role leading data science, like breaking down of teams, I want to just ask you the question of what drew you to the industry, because a lot of people are not aware of the tech revolution happening within real estate and property, but it's massive, more so than just your typical average house buyer is searching for apps online. Can you give us some insight into why you chose VTS and this industry? Because obviously coming from Lyft as a data science manager, I'm sure you had plenty of options and plenty of directions. What ultimately was the factors that made you decide to go this direction?
Yeah, that's a great question, JP. I would say for me, there's 2 main reasons that got me excited about joining VTS. I think the first thing is a bit more on the personal career side. I think one of my aspirations is to be a data science leader or even a data leader in this space. And after having been at BlueApe and Lyft, which are all great companies, I actually joined at a time where a lot of the data infrastructure and the data processes and the way that we use data to drive decisions is already quite mature. I like to think of it in sort of from like a 0 to 1 scale. If you think about BlueApe and Lyft at the time, it's pretty advanced. I would say maybe over 0.7 for both companies. And really the focus I had during those times is really just to leverage the data that we have to drive insights. What I realized I was lacking was sort of the experience of building a data organization from a more early stage point of view. And so in terms of my next opportunity at the time, I really was looking for a place where obviously data was critical to the company's success, but where they were in their maturity was a little bit more in the early stage. So that was the number one thing that I was looking for. In terms of why VTS, I thought it was a good fit. One thing that really, surprised me was, commercial real estate is one of the largest industries, in the U.S. or in the world. yet their usage of data is quite behind compared to a lot of the industries that are out there today. And so I thought that there was a good opportunity, and I wanted to just explore the space a little to see if there are any companies in the real estate space, especially on the commercial side, that had that sort of data vision and were also in a good position to do so. And honestly, I
Yeah.
think the space kind of checked all the boxes in that regard. And after talking to those folks, it was very clear that all of them were pretty much everyone at VTS was pretty, bought into this vision. So it was a pretty clear-cut decision for me once I was able to talk to some folks and build a good relationship with them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've done several podcasts now with other firms who are looking to operate in and around this space. And it's remarkable. It's probably the largest industry in terms of market cap that hasn't been completely revolutionized by technology. So clearly VTS have identified the opportunity, and as have you. So moving on then, Harold, look, can you walk us through what it's been like for your first year leading the data science group? What has the growth been like? What are the types of individuals that you've had to bring in? And without giving away too much in terms of the confidential stuff, can you give us some insight into what your team are working on?
I like to think about what we're doing in terms of sort of three main work streams for now. I would say the first one is really just leveling our data infrastructure. As I've mentioned before, we are at a stage where data is pivotal to our success. But in order for us to do well in the long term, we want to make sure that our infrastructure is, state of the art. And not only are we able to really deliver the best insights, but we're able to deliver them as efficiently as possible. So that includes a lot of considerations of what our data warehouse should look like, how our data model should look like, and how that makes it really easy for both technical and non-technical folks within VTS to get the insights that they want. So this is in partnership with a lot of data engineering minded folks, analytics engineers on the team to make sure that we really get this right. Second thing we're thinking of is, VTS is a startup. There are a lot of initiatives going on. So a lot of what we're doing right now is to support as much as they need on existing initiatives. And you can think of that as similar to more of a product analytics sort of data scientist role in other companies, where we're really trying to provide a data-driven perspective to a lot of their decision making and seeing where we can contribute and help them drive the right decision making in those places. And then the third work stream I would say is pretty similar to more of sort of a machine learning engineer, research science type of role, which is more of, can we work on some long-term foundational data science projects that could have many applications across VTS, whether it's for the product or for external insights within our VTS data offering. And those are things that we continually collaborate with cross-functional stakeholders to figure out what are those things, what are those building blocks that are really valuable to VTS and beyond. And so that's more of an iterative sort of research process. And so that's what we're thinking. And how that translates to sort of our hiring efforts right now, like we are actively hiring many data scientists right now, but given sort of the scale that we're at and sort of like we're a small team right now, we're definitely looking for people that pretty much can wear all these hats, right? We're not looking for specialists that are really, really good at deep learning per se. We're looking at generalists that can, do analysis, can get, their hands dirty on some of the more premature tools that we have, but can also build prototype models that really facilitate more research sciencey, machine learning heavy type of projects that can really make a profound impact on what we do.
Excellent. So from your time joining, how has the team grown? What's the current headcount numbers? And you touched on it there briefly. You expect to grow again in 2021. So what does the next 12 to 18 months look like for you guys?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned before, we have quite a few analytics and data-minded folks. So we have a few product analysts, we have analytics engineers. Data science actually is only a team of one, which I'm a part of right now. But the goal for 2021 is to hire at least 3 more, with the potential to hire even more depending on how our trajectory is going. So that's sort of where we're thinking at the moment.
is super exciting. So sticking on this point, because I think it's helpful to hear from, an experienced leader of a data team who's managed, talented teams at Lyft and now here. When you're screening candidates, obviously there's a huge amount of interest for positions, but often is the case there's a lot of applications that will come in that don't quite have the right mix for that specific position. When you're looking at candidates for your team, what are the key things that stand out to you from a tech stack, culture fit, and then in the conversation when you're assessing somebody as a potential employee?
That's a great question. I would first preface by saying that, for different data science positions across the industry, the requirements and the expectations are a little bit different. But for a startup like VTS, where we are definitely very much in the growth stage, but our data science team is relatively small, as I mentioned before, we need people that are able to wear all hats. And what I mean by that is obviously your tech stack needs to be strong. You must be able to manipulate data really well using SQL, R, and Python, whatever your preferred tools are. I would say that we're pretty language agnostic, but being able to manipulate data well is it's key. Also being able to conduct analysis, build prototype machine learning models is probably like the baseline of what your technical skills are. But what I would say the differentiating factor is, I would say twofold. One is the ability to communicate across, all different types of stakeholders. That is probably the most important trait that we're looking for in a data scientist. And that might seem counterintuitive because, data scientist is supposed to be a technical role. Like, why do we need to have these soft skills? Well, data scientists can unlock so much business opportunity that in order for us to really be able to drive impact, we need to convince others that it is impactful and it is valuable. And in a startup, you'll probably meet folks that are quite technical, such as engineers that might help you with the production of the model, but also a lot of business leaders, and especially in commercial real estate, where data science is not very well known or common. And so being able to educate them on the power of data science and also how we can really make a big difference with our insights is going to be key. So being able to communicate what you find, both from a technical lens and a non-technical lens, is very important.
I think that's a great insight into how candidates can work on a set of skills that are just as important as their tech stack and their model building, because it's critical. And we hear it all the time. Final question from me, Harold. Look, you've been with VTS, for over a year now, and we're looking at interesting times ahead with the impact of COVID, and obviously real estate is impacted massively. But one of the good things that have come from the disruption that's been caused by COVID is there's a renewed focus on how technology can help real estate as an industry improve its operating, its cost, and all of the other factors that have been currently disrupted. From somebody who's now working in this space, what are you most excited about looking ahead for not just VTS but the industry as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would say that the number one thing I'm most excited about is probably, as we mentioned before, the pivot towards making decisions using data. I think in the past, commercial real estate has just been so successful in so many markets and so many places, especially in the US, that there hasn't been much of a need to really think about how to strategically position themselves in the industry. A lot of times things might have been sort of more on the autopilot range where, the demand is always there, supply is always going there, prices are going to go up, everything's looking great. But with COVID, with such a shock event, everyone needs to kind of take a step back and reevaluate what's going on in the industry. And one data point that can really help with understanding what's going on is, having data in your hands. And hopefully, as we continue to recover, and no one really knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years or so, but I hopefully see this as an opportunity for people to really recognize the value of data in the industry and hopefully use it as a long-term solution for any future decisions that they make, even as the industry continues to recover, which I'm pretty sure it will.
Absolutely. Harold, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us today. It was great to learn about your background, your time at successful companies in BlueApe and Lyft, but most importantly, the exciting things that are happening in the real estate space and the role that VTS are going to play. Great to hear about the growth that's upcoming, and we wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.